So now the concept that we need to go to when it comes to evolution by natural selection is to look at speciation. Okay. So the term speciation, for you to understand it, you need to first understand the whole thing about species. Okay. So speciation, we say that speciation is the process or is the formation of new species. It's a process whereby new species are being formed. But you need to understand, first of all, what is species? What is a species? So whenever you describe or define species, you use certain words to describe it. We say that species are similar organisms. So these are similar organisms. Species are similar organisms. And then these similar organisms, they can interbreed. Okay, so these are similar organisms that can interbreed, similar organisms that can interbreed to produce fertile offspring. To produce fertile offspring. Okay, so whenever we are defining species, I'm sure this is not the first time hearing this definition because you guys have done population ecology in your grade 11, right? So species, we say that these similar organisms. Similar organisms simply means that they are similar to one another structurally. They are similar to one another in their phenotype. They look alike. They are similar organisms. And these similar organisms can interbreed with one another. When we say that organisms are able to interbreed with one another, grade 12s, it simply means that they are able to make a baby. They are able to produce. They are able to reproduce offspring together. When we take a male organism and a female organism of the same species, they must be able to mate. They must be able to make a baby in simple terms. And that baby must be fertile. That is the last thing. The baby must be fertile. Means that whatever offspring that these two organisms are producing, it must be able to reproduce again. It must be able to make its own baby again. So for us to even call certain organisms to be species, to be the same species, those organisms, they must be similar to one another. Those organisms must be able to interbreed with one another. They must be able to have babies with one another. And after having those babies or that offspring that they produce, it must also be fertile. It must also be able to make more of its kind. Okay? So for us to say that humans are of the same species, for example, you are a human, I am a human being, someone else will be a human being as well. If we take Temba, there is a human being. We take Tando, there is a human being. We are of the same species because we are similar organisms. We are all humans. We can be able to interbreed. If we take a female and a male and then they engage in the marriage deed, they will be able to interbreed and then they'll be able to produce fertile offspring. They'll be able to produce offspring that is fertile. So whenever you hear us saying, Wuti, the animals are of the same species, it simply means that those animals are similar to one another. They can be able to interbreed and be able to produce fertile offspring. This is how you define the term species. So now the term speciation, we say, is the formation of new species from one population. So basically, we can take a single population of organisms, all right? If we take a single population of organisms and we do this whole thing of speciation, this whole process of speciation occurs, it means that we might end up having two different species from only one population. Let's just say you've got one population of baboons, and then speciation occurs. You find out with no man, these baboons are no longer the same species after a certain period of time. And for we say due to species, they must be able to interbreed and they must be able to produce fertile offspring. So it simply means that if two organisms, they try to mate with one another and they cannot be able to produce any fertile offspring, then they are not the same species. For us to even say that organisms are of the same species, they must be able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. So if we take one organism and another organism and we put them in the same room and then they fail to reproduce, they fail to make a baby, then they are not the same species. If they fail to make a fertile baby, if they fail to make a fertile offspring, then they are not of the same species. So we can be able to create two species from only one population or from only one species. And you ask yourself, how can one thing become two different things? Now, there are two ways in which speciation can be achieved. We have got speciation via geographic isolation. So the speciation via geographic isolation, it is that type of speciation that uses a physical barrier. But we are still going to talk about that. Usually the physical barrier that we are talking about here, we are talking about a river. Examples of physical barriers that we can use to create new species. We can use a river, or we can use a mountain, or we can use any other things. But the whole point is we have a physical barrier. But we're still going to understand what does this whole thing have to do with creating different species from only one population. We also have got the other type of speciation that is achieved via reproductive isolation. So we have got speciation via reproductive isolation. This one is achieved by preventing reproduction from happening. Now let's just go into the details of what is this whole process and how do we end up creating two species from one species? You'll be like, how can one organism, how can a human and a human end up changing to be something else? All right. So now let's go to speciation by geographic isolation. All right. Speciation by geographic isolation. So now if a population of a single species becomes separated by a geographic barrier, as I've already told you about a physical barrier or a geographical barrier, such as a sea or a river or a mountain or maybe a lake, then the population will split into two. So basically, if we have got one population, maybe one population of reptiles, for example, in this picture that you are seeing here, in this picture here, we are having what? We are having one population. You can see that these organisms, they look similar to one another. They are similar organisms. They are able to interbreed and they're able to produce fertile offspring. But now what are we doing here? We are separating this population, or we are splitting this population into two parts, but it is the same species. You can see that, guys. This is, I don't know if you guys can see properly here, but this is a reptile. I don't know what you call these reptiles, but these are reptiles here. I don't know what they're called. I don't know, is it an iguana or what? This is a reptile, this is a reptile, this is a reptile. They are all of the same species. They are similar organisms. Okay, those are all similar organisms. But what are we doing? We are separating them, or we are splitting them into two by using what? How can you split animals in the wild? You split them using a geographic barrier. In this case, there is a river. You can see that there is a river that is developing between them. So the river here, it is actually separating the population of these reptiles into two subpopulations, or it is splitting them into two subgroups. You can see that on one side here, we have got certain reptiles remaining. On the other side, we have got the other reptiles remaining. But all of these are coming from the same population, but they've been separated. Separated by what? By a river. We call that river as a geographic area. A geographic barrier is just a physical barrier that actually causes the two groups to not be able to meet with one another. So in other words, these two cannot be able to meet with one another is because there's a river between them and they are not able to jump over the river. Let's just assume something like that. Yes, Sam?
So, sir, this species can't jump that barrier, sir, or transpass it and
Yes,
meet
yes.
with another.
Yes, they cannot jump. Actually, they cannot jump. Assume that they cannot jump, although this picture looks like they're able to jump. It's not a big deal. But let's just say that they have been separated by this physical barrier, which is the river, in such a way that these two groups cannot be able to mix with one another, or maybe group one cannot jump into group two, and vice versa. Are we together, Sam?
Yes, sir. So, sir, the geographical drifting, like separation of our continent, it's also the part of it.
Yes, yes. If two continents drift apart from one another, like the continental drift theory, as long as you are able to separate one population into two groups, then you can say, Wuti, now that is speciation happening there. Oh, that's the geographic barrier separating this whole thing. So a geographic barrier here, it can be anything. Usually it's a sea or it's a river, or it's a mountain. Let's just say a mountain develops. Let's just say a mountain was to develop here between these two groups. Then these groups will not be able to meet with one another again. Although they're of the same population, but they will not be able to meet with one another again. That is the whole point of this. Together, Sam.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So now, let's just now proceed and try to understand. After separating them, so what? How does this lead to the formation of new species? But this is the first point. Okay, population is being separated by geographical barriers such as a river, a mountain, a lake, or a sea. In this case, let's just say we have got a river here that is separating these reptiles from interacting with one another. Now, the population splits into two main groups. So now, since the population has drifted apart, or since this single species population has divided into two main groups, we say that there will not be any gene flow. So there won't be any gene flow between the two populations. When we talk about gene flow, it simply means that the populations are mating with one another. They are interbreeding. When you are interbreeding, when a male and a female are doing the deed, okay? When a male and a female are doing the deed, they are simply exchanging their genes with one another. Okay, so we say that is known as gene flow. Gene flow. Whenever you hear the term gene flow, it simply means that a male and a female organism, they are doing the deed, hence they are able to exchange their genes, or they are able to give each other their genes. You guys already understand what that means because you guys did meiosis as well. You also did a reproduction. So here we say that there is no gene flow between the populations. So it simply means that the genes of the population on one group, on one side, will not be transferred to the other side at any cost. Because they are separated, they cannot be able to interact with one another. Okay? They cannot be able to interact with one another. They are separated by this geographic barrier, by this river. So the genes of this population here that we're having here, so the genes of the population that we're having on one side will actually not be able to flow to the other side, as well as the genes from the other side will not be able to flow to the other side as well, because those two species are not interacting with one another. The only way for genes to flow is when the species are doing the deed, is when the species are reproducing with one another, or they're interbreeding with one another. But now the fact that they've been separated physically by this geographic barrier, it simply means that they are not able to have any gene flow between the two groups, or between the two subpopulations, or you can say between the two populations is still acceptable as well. Are we still together, Greta?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now each population is exposed to different environmental conditions. So here we're going to create a scenario whereby we assume that on one side, we have got a hot area. So let's just go back to our scenario here that we're having. So on one side here, we have got a sunny area. You can see that there's a sun on this side, but on the other side, there is less sun. Okay, so there's more sun on one side, there is less sun on the other side. So we are assuming that after this geographic barrier has separated this population into two groups, one side is experiencing a different weather condition from the other side. Hence, whenever we write this point, we say that in this point, each population is now exposed to different environmental conditions. So there are different environmental conditions. It's not only about heat, grade 12. It can happen that on one side there is snow, on the other side there is no snow. It can happen that on one side there is there's rain, on the other side there is no rain. It can happen that on one side there is a forest, on the other side there is no forest. So basically, these populations are exposed to different environmental conditions. Don't say weather conditions, is environmental conditions. When you talk about environmental conditions, we are talking about the environment. We're talking about the ecosystem. We're talking about the surroundings where these groups are being found. So in this case, I think this picture specifically shows you that on one side, one group from this population is experiencing sunny conditions because the sun is kind of rising on that side. But on the other side, the other group is experiencing less sun, or maybe there is less heat on their side. Hence, we say that the two populations or the two groups are now being exposed to different environmental conditions. So now let's take a 10 minutes break, grade 12, and we'll come back after 10 minutes.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
So let us continue grade 12 from where we left off. I was still explaining that when you separate this population into two groups, these groups will be exposed to different environmental conditions in terms of the weather, in terms of the ecosystem, in terms of all the other features surrounding their environment. For this picture, as I already told you, that there's an example that on one side, the one group is having a sunny area, means that it's hot and there is a better sun density compared to the other area or compared to the other group that is not exposed to the sun. So basically, we say that when we separate the population into two different groups, those groups will now be exposed to different environmental conditions. Now, since these two are exposed to different environmental conditions, natural selection will occur independently in each of these two populations. So what occurs after that is natural selection. Remember, guys, that the whole idea of natural selection, we explained it already when we introduced natural selection, that natural selection simply means that nature or the environment is selecting the species that are suitable for it. So the environment is selecting the species that are suitable for it, okay, depending on whether they have the favorable characteristic or they do not have the favorable characteristic, because the whole law of natural selection suggests that the species or the organisms with the favorable characteristics, they will live, whereas the species or the organisms with the less favorable characteristics, they will die. So when we say that natural selection is happening or is occurring independently in each of these two groups or in each of these two populations, what do we actually mean? Okay, let's go back to the scenario that we've already said, try to link this point of natural selection. What do we mean when we say that natural selection occurs independently in each of the following groups or in each of the following populations? Now, let's just say that the group that is on the side with a lot of heat, or the side that has got the sun. Remember, guys, that some of the organisms cannot be able to survive the sun. Some of the organisms can be able to survive the sun. So the organisms that have got an ability to survive the sun, they are favored by this environment that has got the sun, because they're able to survive, right? They've got the allele for surviving that. So let me just say, for example, organism number 1 and organism number 2 and organism maybe number 3 and organism number 4. So I'm just going to circle 4 organisms, right? I'm just going to circle 4 organisms here. So the 4 organisms here, or these 4 reptiles that I've circled here, let's just say these ones are able to survive the heat. Let's just say that they have got an allele that allows them to be able to survive in the heat. I'm sure their environmental condition is hot because there is a sun there. So let's just assume that these 4 are able to survive in the heat. But now the other three reptiles here in this group 1 here, which is this reptile here and this one and this one, let's just say that they are not able to survive the heat. So what do we expect to happen? The ones that are not able to survive the heat, what will happen to them? If you guys followed me on natural selection, what will happen to the other 3 reptiles? What will happen to these 4 circled reptiles?
So the one that they are not able to,
They will die.
Yes, exactly. So the ones that are not able to survive the sunny environment or the hot environment, they will die because they do not have the characteristic, they do not have the allele to survive such environmental conditions. But the ones that are able to survive, they will live and they will reproduce. Okay, so we can just say here, 4 species will survive, and then the 3 species will die out. We apply the same scenario, or we apply the similar scenario to the other group. For the other group, we're just going to apply a similar scenario and say that this one and this one and this one and this one. So we're just going to circle 4 reptiles, or we are going to circle 4 organisms. So let's just assume that on this other side, the other group, actually we've got 2 main groups here. The other group now, let's just say 4 species here, they are able to survive the cold. So there is a colder environment on this other side. Let's just say they are able to survive the cold. But this one reptile here, there is a reptile here, this one remaining reptile, the one that I did not circle with the red, it is the one that is not able to survive the colder conditions on this side. What will happen to the 4? What will happen to the 1? What do you expect?
The 4 will survive and the 1 will die.
Exactly, Pila. So the 4 will survive because they have the characteristic, they have the traits, or they have the allele to be able to survive the cold conditions on this side of the area. But this one that is not able to survive, they will die out because they're not able to survive the conditions. So now natural selection here, we say that it is happening independently on each of the following 2 populations. So each and every environment is selecting its own population by trying to see which one has got a favorable characteristic. And what is the result of that? Let's just look at the result. You see that the 4 here survived. These 4 here on the sunny area, they survived. Okay, so these 4 here on the sunny area, they were able to survive. Let me just circle them with purple. These 4 were able to survive, and then the 3 died. And then on the other side, these 4 were able to survive, and then that 1 died. Okay, so now I want you guys to observe something here. If we observe carefully, you will notice that these organisms that are found in this left-hand side of the barrier, you can see that all of them, they are light skinned, right? All of them, they've got a lighter skin. And then the ones on the other side, they've got a darker skin. Do you guys notice that that difference?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. And you can be able to relate this to the environment and say, with hi man, the ones that are found on the left, they've got a lighter skin because it is so hot. So their skin is bent or it is light or whatever way to put it. But on the other side of the geographical barrier or on the other side of the river, these four here, they are way more darker because they are found in trees. There are trees here, there is a forest, there is shadows, there is colder conditions compared to the other side that looks more of a desert. So now you can see that these species, they are now different from one another. And when it comes to the traits or when it comes to the genes that they have, when you look at the population found on the left, all of them, they've got an allele to be able to survive in the hot conditions. Because remember, guys, that for them to be able to live, it was because they are able to survive in the hot conditions. So all of them, they've got an allele to survive the hotter conditions. But when you look at the ones that are on the right, the group here that is on the right, the one that is found in the forest, they've got an allele to survive in the cold, an allele to survive in the forest under the trees. Okay, so essentially these two are now different from one another. But remember that they came from one population, but they are now different from one another. What makes them different is because now they've got different characteristics, right? These ones on the left, they've got a characteristic to be able to survive the sun, the sunny conditions, the hot conditions, the desert conditions. Maybe they probably don't eat that much. Maybe the diet that they eat, they end up eating some mice and they end up eating some worms or something like that. The ones found on the right-hand side, they're under the grass. They are there. They've got grass. They've got trees. Maybe they eat some different animals. Then essentially they are now having different modes of living as well. So now these are now two different species. Yes, Sam.
So this it also results on us human beings like darker beans and white beans like abelung and abamnyama se.
Okay. No, not really. Because for us as humans, this speciation thing, guys, remember that these are all based on theory, right? These are all based on theory. But in the realistic sense, when you look at humans, all humans can interpret with one another, and we are of the same species, whether you are dark-skinned or you are light-skinned. But this does relate to the state that we're at, because when you look at Africa has got the African people, the black people. For the mere fact that Africa is closer to the equator, the people are dark. It makes sense to say that we are dark because we are near the equator or we are closer to the equator. But when we go to the continents that are in the polar regions, you know, when you go to the continents that are far away from the equator, the continents that are receiving colder conditions, continents that have got snow, and they've got all of those colder weather conditions, you find light-skinned races. So yes, indeed, to an extent, it applies. Each and every environment will have its own favorites. Okay, each and every environment will have its own favorites. That's why a black person will not be able to survive being in snow without wearing any jerseys compared to a white person. A white person can go into snow without wearing any jerseys. And then a flip side, if we take a white person and then their sunny conditions, usually they end up applying lotion and sunscreen because the sun is too much for them. But for a black person, they don't need to do that. So you kind of see that sense of saying who has the favorable characteristic for this environment. Oh, by the way, guys, this is not anything racial. I'm not making any negative racial comments, just a disclaimer on the video. Okay, but I'm just trying to explain, Uti, the environment that you are in, you must be adapted for it. Okay, so the environment that you are in, you must be adapted for it, and this is happening. This is usually happening in animals and these species. Is that clear, Sam?
Okay, sir.
Yes. Sir. Yeah. So that's the whole point of this natural selection thing and this thing of being exposed to different populations. So now the individuals of the two populations now, they become different from one another, genotypically and also phenotypically. This is very important for you to state that now that these two have experienced natural selection independently from one another, they will now become different, because the ones found in the sunny area, they will be way more lighter. The ones found in the forest, they will be way more darker, for those reasons that they are all experiencing natural selection in different ways, and they are all being exposed to different environmental conditions. So these will now become different genotypically and phenotypically. Why do we say that they are now different genotypically? Their genes will be different, because remember, guys, that the genes of this group that is found on the left, these genes are able to survive the conditions such as the hot weather conditions in the desert area and all of that. So their genes are able to survive that. Their alleles or their characteristics or their traits are able to survive that environment. But now when you flip side, you go to the other side here. The other side here is having the other group is able to survive a shady area, an area with a shadow, an area with no sun, an area that is having a forest. So now they are now having different gene structures. They are now having different genes. So they are now different from one another, genotypically and phenotypically as well. When you say genotypically, it simply means that their gene structures are now being different from one another. And their phenotypes as well, the way they look like is also now different from one another. So now these individuals of the two populations become different from each other. And then now the catch is, even if these two populations were to mix again, let's just assume that you will remove the geographic barrier, or there is any possibility of mixing these two groups together to try and form that original population that existed way long back, they will not be able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. So even if they were to be mixed again, okay, even if they were to meet again, they won't be able to interbreed. They will not be able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. Others are able to just interbreed and make a baby, but the baby will not be fertile. Then they are now different species if something like that happens. Okay, the two populations are now different species from one another, because even if you mix them, you hope that they will interbreed. Maybe they will make some babies. Nope. Let's just assume that their river has dried out. Maybe some drought came through and the river dries out. And then now the population on one side is able to go to the other one, and vice versa. Even if you mix the population once again, they are now no longer the same in terms of their genes. Genotypically, they are different. Phenotypically, they are different. And hence, even if they try to mate, try to make babies, try to get back to the old ways, that cannot work anymore, because now they are different. They can't interbreed. They can't make any fertile offspring. Yes, Sam?
So this you can just say an example of two different chickens, like the red chicken and white chicken. They cannot get mixed.
Okay, in actual fact, as someone who has grown chicken when they were growing up, you can mix a red chicken and white chicken. Okay. Oh, it depends. Oh, okay. You've got the road runners. Okay, the chicken from the Makaya chicken, and then you've got the ones that you eat each and every day, which is, I don't know what you call them, the broilers. They're known as broilers in English. Yeah, those two, I don't think they can mate with one another. They definitely cannot mate with one another. They are different species. But if you're just talking about a red chicken and a white chicken, and they are the same, like the same species, they can be able to interbreed. But if you are talking about these ones that are used for the ones that we eat, the ones that we buy in mixed portions, those ones are different. I think they are different species from the Makaya chicken that we usually eat each and every day.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, but that's a very good example. That's a very good example. I don't know, guys, you should do an experiment. I don't know if you've got chickens at your disposal for you to use right now. Maybe you can take the lamb tutu chicken, the broilers, the ones that we eat each and every day, and then mix it up with a chicken from the rural areas. You can just go to a rural area and say, give me your chicken. And then you mix them in one place. Try to see if they can do anything, but I don't think they would do anything. They'll probably not be able to interbreed with one another because they're different species. So speciation is something that's achievable. We can be able to do it. And genetics always grows and grows and grows, such that we're able to change the genes of the organisms and we're able to do some engineering on their gene structures. Yeah. So yeah, that's the whole point, guys, to say that now these two populations are now different species because they are not able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring, because the whole point or the whole definition of species that I gave you guys at the beginning of the session is that species are similar organisms that are able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. And I repeat again the definition. There's term species, similar organisms that are able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. So they must be able to interbreed with one another. Not only interbreed, but they must be able to produce fertile offspring. If they just interbreed without producing fertile offspring, then they are not species. You guys know a donkey, right? And you guys know a horse. If you take a donkey and a horse, they look so much alike, those two. They come from the same family, actually. And then if you mate them, or let me just say you mix them, and then they do the deed somehow, a donkey and a horse, they are going to produce a mule. There's something known as a mule. Their offspring is known as a mule. A mule is infertile. It cannot be able to produce more mules. So we say that donkeys and horses are not the same species, because even if you mate them, even if you force them to do the deed, yes, they will do the deed because they're animals. They're just having fun and stuff in this nature for them. But in actual fact, the two are not species. The two are not from the same species, or they are not of the same species, because they are able to interbreed, yes, but the offspring that they produce, a mule, the offspring known as the mule, it is infertile. It's not able to produce more mules. Is that clear, Great Horse?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's the whole process of speciation. Criteria of speciation is just that, creation of new species. So this was the first method, which is a speciation by geographic isolation. I think it's known as allotropic speciation. Yeah, speciation by geographic isolation, or they can say allotropic speciation. They can say allotropic speciation. This is when you are using a physical barrier, such as a sea, a river, a mountain, a lake, to be able to separate the population into two groups, and then eventually let natural selection occur independently on them, since they are being exposed to different environmental conditions. And then eventually they'll become different species. They'll become different from one another, such that even if you mix them again, they cannot be able to interbreed to be able to produce fertile offspring. Are we together, Gritov? Do you understand do you now understand the concept of speciation? Are we together, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Exactly. So now let's now go to speciation by reproductive isolation. So we have got a reproductive isolation as well to be able to try and make new species. This is another method. This one is the most commonly used even by us as humans. Okay, yeah. So this is actually allopatric, allopatric. Here you guys will write the correct spelling later on when it comes to the speciation. Okay. So now when it comes to the reproductive isolation, this one is known as the sympatric speciation. Another name is a sympatric speciation. And the one for geographic isolation, I said, is allopatric. It's actually allopatric, not allotropic. It's allopatric. So now there are 5 mechanisms, Gretos, that are used for reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation simply means that you are preventing your organisms from mating with one another, or you are preventing your organisms from interbreeding with one another, or yes, you are preventing a reproduction from happening. Okay, so you are preventing reproduction from happening, and this one will end up creating new species at the end of the day. Okay, so sympatric speciation, or this reproductive isolation speciation, we have got 5 mechanisms, or we have got 5 methods that we can be able to use, but you don't really need a geographic barrier here. We don't need a geographic barrier. All right. So the first one, it is the breeding at different times of the year. Breeding at different times of the year. So basically, we have got some species that breed during the summer, others they breed during the winter. Okay, some breed during the summer, others breed during the winter. So they breed at different times of the year. That's one method of having this reproductive isolation. Essentially, those two are different species. I don't know if you get that sense. The ones that are breeding in winter will never be able to breed during summer. Okay, so I don't know what you can do to make some species to breed during winter rather than summer. But basically, if you breed them at different periods or at different seasons of the year, they will become different species. Because basically, let's just say we have got a species of animals. Let me just say cows, and then some of the cows, some of them they are breeding during the winter, some of them are breeding during the summer. Those two will be different from one another because they'll be breeding at different conditions as well. Okay, so breeding at different times of the year kind of makes it hard for them to be able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. Then essentially they are different species because they cannot be able to interbreed. Remember, guys, the definition of species: similar organisms that are able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. So the whole point is all about interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. So if they are breeding at different times of the year, they cannot interbreed to produce fertile offspring. Hence, they are now different species. We also have got the species-specific courtship behavior. So some of the species, they respond in a certain way. For example, if we look at this set of birds, maybe this bird only allows mating if it dances with its partner like this. Okay, so this partner must dance so that these two can mate with one another. Otherwise, if the partner does not dance, then the partner will not be able to get it, or the partner will not be able to mate with this one. They will not be able to reproduce with one another. So this is the type of behavior that is acceptable to this bird so that reproduction can happen, so that interbreeding can happen. So the species-specific courtship behavior will actually make sure that the only birds that will mate with this female are the ones that are dancing in this particular way. Otherwise, if another bird comes dancing amapiano, then it will not be able to mate with this one. So a species-specific courtship behavior is one of the factors that contributes to different species forming. Okay, because basically this female will never be able to allow a male to reproduce with it if the male does not dance in a specific way, or if the male does not behave in a specific pattern. So a species-specific courtship behavior, one of the mechanisms, is used for reproductive isolation. We also have got the plant adaptation to different pollinators. All right. So first, for plants, remember that plants, they need pollinators such as insects, or they can be pollinated by birds, or can be pollinated by the winds. Okay. So some of the plants, they are adapted to have different pollinators. Okay. And then if now one of them is being pollinated by the insects, another one is now being pollinated by the birds. Now they are different from one another. Now those two are different from one another. They're now plants of different species because they cannot be able to interbreed to produce fertile offspring. You guys already know the pollination process, whereby an insect such as a bee will come and take away the pollen while it is sucking the nectar and transfer it to another plant, to another flower, so that reproduction occurs in plants. That is a type of reproduction, sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, so now the fact that some plants are adapted to different pollinators, it makes them distinct or different from one another, because some of them will be pollinated by birds and some of them will be pollinated by the insects, which makes them to be eventually different species. Okay, the other one that we have is an infertile offspring, which is what I just explained right now. When it comes to the mule, I told you guys that a horse, if you combine a horse and you combine it with a donkey, they will produce an offspring known as a mule, and the mule is not fertile. So this is a hybrid infertility case. It's known as infertile offspring. Just say it's an infertile offspring. So now the mule, if you combine, let me just show you the scenario. It is donkey, and then you reproduce it. It's a donkey plus a horse. You combine the two, a donkey and a horse. A donkey and a horse all together, they produce a mule. But the mule that is being produced is infertile, or it is not able to produce more mules. So now the mule is now a new species. A mule is now a new species. So speciation occurred here, because it's all about the formation of new species from the old ones. It's all about creating new species from the old ones. But now here we're just doing it via mechanisms of reproductive isolation, aka the sympatric speciation. So as I've already told you, or this is just a pictorial representation of what I just told you guys. You can see that here, we have got what? We have got a donkey and a horse. Yeah. So a donkey and a horse, they produce a mule. And then the mule is a hybrid of the two, or it is kind of the combination of the two, but it cannot be able to reproduce, cannot be able to make more mules. Hence, we say that now we have formed a new species, which is the mule. But now we formed it via a reproductive isolation, as well as the last one, which is the prevention of fertilization. So basically, I don't know if you believe this, but the sexual organs are different among different species. Okay, so there are species that have got maybe let's just say it's going to be the worst demonstration ever in the world. But basically, let's just say there is a species that has got a sexual organ like this, right? So for it to be able to mate with another species, it needs the species. Okay, let's just say that this is the female. Let me just say that this is the female. So for this female to be able to reproduce, it needs to combine with a male that has got a sexual organ that's exactly the same shape, so that it can be able to fit into its organ in such a way that they can be able to interbreed. But if it happens that a female now comes and they've got something different, maybe the female has got a sexual organ that looks like a square, and then now we bring a male that is having a sexual organ that is round like this, they will not be able to mate with one another because the round cannot fit into the square, essentially. So this is preventing fertilization from happening. So it's one of the mechanisms reproductive isolation would occur. Oh, okay, because basically it simply means that these two will be different species from one another. It means that this male would not be able to reproduce with this female. Hence, they are now different species. So we can say that they are different species. So basically, it's all about preventing a male and a female from interbreeding to produce fertile offspring. That's speciation for this context. Are we still together, Kratos?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.